Frank Caliendo, my guy. Good to talk. How you doing?
I'm above average, above sea level, just making it rock. Hey, before we get started, when did the hair start? When did you? I'm sure you've talked about this on your show, but I haven't talked to you about it. And I figured now is I don't know why now is the time, but what happened to you? You see those old videos of young Joey Molinaro, and you're clean. I mean, I'm not that you're not clean cut anymore, but you were clean cut. You're nerdy. And I don't know if I mean that in a negative. I kind of mean it in a negative way, but not really. But it's just such a drastic change. Is this who you always? Why did I turn it into my podcast? Is this who you have always been and wanted to be and just couldn't because of corporate America? Or
yeah. I mean, a little bit, yes and no. So I got married in September of 2019.
Right.
And I was clean cut and I didn't have any tattoos. And I got my hair cut again in October of 2019. And then a month later, I was at this bar with my wife and a couple of her friends. And it was like a honky tonk, it's called Duke's. And so it's just this honky tonk, hole in the wall kind of bar where they play classic country music and whatever. Anyways, there was a bunch of dudes there that were wearing it was November in Indy, so they're wearing the beanie, sock cap hats, and they had long hair like this that was hanging out of it, and they had a bunch of tattoos. And I told my wife Riley, I was like, that looks really cool. I was like, I've never let my hair get I've never let my hair get that long. I always wimp out and get it cut. And so I was like, let's just do it. I'm just gonna grow it out. And so October 2019 is the last time I got my hair cut, and now I've added all of this.
I didn't realize you're tatted up too. You mentioned that you weren't tatted up. I'm not a tattoo guy. I've never been. I don't know what it is, and I don't care if somebody else does.
It's a generational thing.
Is it? Because I really don't care if somebody does. It's just not my. My wife has one tattoo. She calls it her sticker. That's what she always told the kids. It was a sticker.
Nice.
And it was just above the pant, or just below the pant line on the back side. I'm keeping it clean. But the kids would always see it, and she'd say, "Oh, that's a sticker." And the kids, until they were 12 or something, believed her. But I was never into tattoos. I always thought it took away from the human form, I guess, which is stupid. But I don't like plastic surgery and stuff. That's why I let myself be fat too, and I'm aging.
No,
so
you look fit.
I'm fitter than I had been, but it's also this. Your camera's slimming, and your look is kind of relief pitcher-ish, like Major League Baseball relief pitcher.
Sure.
Maybe not Wild Thing, but you have your own song that plays as you come from the outfield. Halfway in a golf cart. The rest are no, I'll do this myself, kind of thing. And
what would be your song? What would be your song you'd come out to?
Lean on Me. Just soft. Give everybody. No, probably. I don't know. I should have gone with Dexy's Midnight Runners. Come on, Eileen. I don't know. I'm not a music.
That's a good one, though. That's a good one.
Yeah. It's all. I like odd 80s music. That's more my kind of thing. But I know nothing about real music. People have always made fun of me. The Bob and Tom Show, nationally syndicated out of Indianapolis. Tom Griswold, the main host, would always laugh at me because he's like, "What concerts have you been to?" I'm like, "The Wiggles." It's for my kids. I've never really. I don't like being in groups of people. I've never liked to be in large groups. So, that's people are always. My family's always amazed I ever became a comedian in any way, shape, or form, because I was always quiet as a kid. I'm a huge loner. I'd rather be playing Legos in my room as a kid, watching sitcoms. But this is old for you, but Different Strokes, those types of 80s sitcoms were anything with a Alan Thicke written sitcom theme is probably something. Well, hey, Mike, is that great? Okay, Mike.
Now we're getting more into the psychology and kind of the Stern era here, because it's you became a comedian then probably because you were on stage, you can control it. right? You felt comfortable up there because everybody was paying attention to you, and then that's why you did the comedy and the impression and everything like that.
I liked the money I could make. Honestly, it was more that than anything. When I was a kid, I played AU baseball. AU All-American twice, 14 under, 17 under, national champions in Urbandale, Iowa. I still have the trophy. It's probably around here. It might actually be.
So were you?
Hold on, I'm telling you about my trophy. The team trophy that I took.
It's my interview style.
Yeah, I know, and I'm busting it. But I used to, when you go into the hotels and stuff like that, you're staying at the Road Star Inn, La Crosse, Wisconsin, for the Stars of Tomorrow tournament. I would be the guy in the hotel lobby, and I didn't do any impressions at the time. I think maybe of my friends, but not like famous people. But I would do all that kind of stuff and kind of hold court in the lobby of the hotel. And now I do none of that. Like, I have no interest. I was with a couple times. I was even in Arizona, like at a festival kind of thing. And Steve Keim is just, general manager of the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
And he was just hanging out. He was there with his family, and we just crossed paths or something like that. And he's like, you just walk around? I go, if you don't draw attention to yourself, nobody cares. And, people used to me with a gray wig on or something like that, a suit and a tie halfway undone. I'm 5'6". People expect me to be 6'5" if they do know who I am. Yeah. And I was just like, I really don't. Whatever. If I lived my life like that, I'd feel like I was just a jackass. So I just go and do whatever.
So do you, now that your kids are getting older, back to the tattoos, are you the strict dad of no tattoo, or kind of let them feel it out as they get to become an adult?
Neither of my kids has any interest in something like that. So I don't even have to worry about it, to be honest with you. I would rather they didn't before they were 18. I'd rather they just, because a lot of people get the tattoo and then, wish they hadn't. I have a little bit of that tattoo remorse.
Sure.
But I wouldn't, tell my kid I'm taking their college funds away from them or anything like that. It's not like that. I just don't get it, to be honest with you. But some people will be like, they don't get a lot of things I do. So either way, it's not like I'm judging. It's just what I like versus what somebody else likes.
Yeah, like I said, it's definitely generational. My grandma gave me the whole, why are you defacing God's, picture that he painted of you? And then my mom was, every one that I've gotten, my mom has kind of come down a notch. When I first got one, she was like, I can't, and then by the one that I just got, the Millennium Falcon, she was just like, yeah, looks good. And I'm so I just kept going until she didn't care.
How many parsecs does it take?
12.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you a Star Wars guy?
Not really. I know little bits. I like Star Wars. Don't get mad at me. Don't start to judge. But I'm more of a Marvel guy, and a lot of it has to do with just it used to be with my son that we used to go to the movies together. We used to go to iPic theaters, and it would be special. Anytime a Marvel movie came out, he couldn't wait. And then he got old enough where his friends were more important than me. But then my daughter broke her elbow, and when she broke her elbow, she was a gymnast. She got into the MCU after watching Guardians of the Galaxy, and now she's a savant with a trivia savant, and she's gotten to meet Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth. Mm-hmm. Who else she got?
Some handsome guys. Some
yeah. Josh Brolin, who used me as inspiration for the movie W. Yeah, he and Oliver Stone watched me do the George W. Yeah. And then it ended up where it was funny because when we met Josh Brolin, he was with Chris Evans, and Brolin's like, this guy is responsible for one of my roles in a movie, and Chris Evans is like, what movie? And or what role? And I was like, Thanos. He's like, what? Come on. And I was like, no, it was George W. Bush. And he's like, wait a second, who are you? And I go, Frank Caliendo. He's like, oh my God. And he starts quoting things from the Madden, because Chris Evans is a massive Patriots fan. Yeah, huge Patriots fan. So he even took in for one. I don't know if it was Civil War or what, but what my daughter would know. But he brought like the Patriots to an opening to the red carpet of one of the Marvel movies. So he's hitting me and smashing. I'm like, relax, you get the super soldier serum. He's just smashing me. And, you know, Thanos, like, Brolin is just asking my daughter about her arm because she looks like Bucky. She looks like a Winter Soldier with that thing on. Because you go to a Comic-Con, we were at a Comic-Con, and people think it's a costume, like a bad costume, but they think it's, you know.
Oh, she's cosplaying somebody with her cast?
Yeah, but it wasn't a cast. It was like a mechanical. You know when people get like a.
It had the
I call it the Sean. Yeah, I call it the Sean Elliott because that's the time when I destroyed my ACL. But it's that kind of brace, effectively that it was, and people thought it was just a a cosplay thing, but it was actually no. She just had surgery a couple days before, so
right.
Yeah, it ended up being like great because then Evan sees me later. He's like, "Hey, Frank," and I just like, "That was awesome!" Like, what was so great? He's like, he didn't have to talk to you that time. He wanted to talk to you. I was like, okay. Well, me and Cap go way back, but also here, it's your It was on her 13th birthday. I'm like, your 13th birthday. It's all downhill from here because I don't know if Brie Larson knows anything about Fox Sports or ESPN.
Yeah, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure there. You know, the one 100%. Good beat. How you're like, how do you fucking top that?
Yeah, it's like it's like when you get your engagement ring for your wife or anything. You can't first wedding anniversary. The present can't be too good because you're setting up the rest of your life for failure. And that's I have a 13-year-old daughter that thinks I'm friends with Captain America, and she realized I have no friends whatsoever.
That's a tough fall off for you. Yeah. That was good for Evans. He always seems like he's he just seems like the high school jock that is always super cool and kind of inquisitive. And it seems like when Chris Evans talks, his eyebrows always kind of like he finishes his words almost like a high school girl would, where everything's like question, but he does it in like a cool way. You know what I mean?
Well, I always go to the Endgame speech where it's like 5 years ago, we lost, all of us. We lost friends. We lost family. We lost a part of ourselves. Today, we have a chance to take it all back. You know your teams. You know your missions. Get the stones. Get them back. 1 round trip each. So it's like he is. And then, that's when Rocket's like, he's pretty good at that. That's.
That, So now that I've had this, I've been working at Barstool for a year, and I've had these instances where, much like you've had to deal with for 25 years, probably 20 years at least, of when you're out and about and people want to come up and ask for impressions and things like that. I've had these experiences now, probably not to your level, but what was the point where you're just like, man, I'm so sick of doing John Madden, man, I'm so sick of people. Did you ever reach that where you're just like,
oh no, I don't care.
Because when I'm out at Target.
That's way better than, dude, you suck. That's what
I think it is. I can't complain, but it's just like, I've had times, they message me later, like I've told the story, and they're like, hey man, next time I ask you to do an impression, just do an impression. I'm like, dude, I was just at a restaurant.
Yeah, how much did you pay for that ticket? I even had after shows. I used to do like the meet and greet after shows and sign things for people I didn't even sell stuff. I would just do it and sign stuff for people for free. I did sell stuff at times, but part of the reason was just to get out there and just be able to, you didn't have to buy an autograph or something. You didn't have to buy something. I just signed stuff for people. But people would be like, how come you're not doing impressions and voices now? I go, because this is the real me. This is, they're like, I like it when you do impressions better. I was like, well, but this is... But that's the show. This is actually who I am. So I'm sorry, but this is how God made me. That's what Joey's grandma said. I didn't have anything. I'm like, I don't want to put on the show right now. If I got to meet, let's say a situation where you meet the guy I'd love to meet. One of my favorites is Robert Downey Jr. If I get, I'm starting to do it, and wasn't really trying, but it just started to happen. But if I got to meet Robert Downey Jr., I wouldn't want him to be on and be, making quips. I'd rather him just be relaxing and just get to see the real person who's not. Same with Robin Williams when he was alive. He was one of my favorites. It would have been like, that's who I want to just have a conversation and not be doing bits, but like this, like, going back and forth with people talking for real, to me is always better than, people putting on the show, because everybody gets to see the show all the time. I don't want, I don't want, and this is kind of a similar thing. I'm sorry for all the name drops. This is just the coolest stuff that's happened to me, but it makes sense.
Oh, I love it.
Well, you're gonna have to love it because it's
because you're here. You're gonna tell
the
it.
the first Marvel Cinematic Universe person we met was at Ace Comic-Con in Phoenix, and it was Tom Hiddleston, Loki, and he does a bunch of impressions too. And he was he does impressions of. It was so funny because I was like talking to him about impressions for a little bit, and he's fantastic. He's one of the best I've ever seen, honestly. Who's probably not known for it, but he's like, and yes, I do impressions of people I work with in film. And I was like, oh, well, I do impressions of people I've seen in films. So, and he wasn't trying to be a jerk or anything, but I was just like, oh my God. So we're talking about Anthony Hopkins, and I'm like, whoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, should possess the power of Thor. He's like, yeah, but he's like, yes, I know him as Tony. He's like, no, he's just like, hey, I'm Tony. How you doing? So it was really funny to see. But that's the moment where, oh, that's who the guy is behind the scenes. Hiddleston gets to hang out with the guy behind the scenes. I just know him from the movie roles.
Right.
So that's the kind of stuff that I really like, and that's why I think, hey, when you get to see the actual me, and if you're disappointed, I'm sorry, this is all it is. Nothing I can do about it. I mean, I didn't even do impressions till college, probably. So
no, and that's like, for because we're recording this on Thursday, come out on Friday tomorrow, and people are going to be very excited because you besides like Nick Saban, you are the most person I get asked about. When are you going to even though we have collabed and we have done stuff together, a year ago, when are you going to do some Frank Caliendo? What do you, Frank Caliendo? Do you look up to Frank Caliendo? And it's like, every time I'm like, yes, absolutely.
Well, wait, it's going to it'll get, I'll let you go to the story on your own podcast in a second, but it gets worse because anytime there's and as I don't even enjoy doing impressions as much anymore. I'd rather work on my acting and get that side of it down. Because what happens with impressions, I've told you about this before behind the scenes. I like the party trick. People start to just look for the party trick. And I've talked to Ross Marquand about this, who's incredible as well. And he's on Walking Dead. He plays Aaron on Walking Dead. But it's one of those things where when you do an impression, people can't wait to see the next party trick. And it actually takes away from other things you can do. And you do a really great job of doing those other character things. I just pigeonholed myself so much with impressions and sports impressions. But I don't even enjoy the impressions that much because to me, it's the same thing. But anytime to get back to the point, anytime somebody does an impression, I get tagged in it. When there's a great impression, and Joe Godet's another guy who's really great too. There's, I'm trying to think of a couple other people. But they're quite Josh Robert Thompson, who's the greatest. I do a good Morgan Freeman. Josh Robert Thompson is Morgan Freeman.
You actually hooked me up with him, and I did that Shark skit, and he was phenomenal.
Yeah, but his voice.
Nicky Smiggs. I know you linked up with him.
Good. Yeah. He's a younger guy. He's good. I always look for people that have something super original. So I did about the time you were coming up, I had done on my podcast. I did a little bit of Saban. Mine starts to sound more like Hank Hill, and Coach O. We were doing some Coach O stuff, and then you started doing it. And I was like, and Holmberg, who does a podcast with me, which we just finally started doing again. We cut it out for a while, but when I hear an impression that's like the elite impression of a person, I go, well, unless I have my own interesting take, I'm just not even going to do it unless it's one word or something like that. But I have no interest in going, that's like with you, with the Coach O and Saban. There's Elon Gold has a couple that are like that. There's certain people I just go, well, it's unless you have your own thing to add, it's not even worth. I'm not going to do a bit about the same kind of person. So,
no, but I think that you and something that I've always appreciated about you and Dane and Carvey too. Obviously, SNL and another really good impressionist, obviously, but is both of you guys have in different ways made it to where I'm like, look, even if we're not talking about it, doing an impression, I'm like, it's more fun to become a caricature. It's more fun to get outlandish with it and be more of a parody of that person rather than just being spot on identical. Because then you can have more fun with it. Then you can run with the character more.
It's having the take. Once you have the take and the point of view of the person, you make it and you blow it up a little bit and you create with it, as opposed to recreating, which is just saying lines from, saying lines that they've already said. So that was the knock on impressions, why impressionism, died in the vaudevillian style. But people were just doing lines from movies, and when you do that, and you don't have to take on the person, you have to do jokey jokes. So you have to do a setup and punchline, and that stuff doesn't work. Having the take and the point of view allows you to create something fun with it, and then be conversational as well.
Right. How do you, because this is something that I try to think about more and more. How do you, because you have your go-tos and you have so many people that you impersonate and do so well, obviously. But how do you, go about kind of your search process of like, oh, you know what, that could be a good person that I could do and turn into a character and impersonate. Maybe somebody who 5 years ago wasn't relevant or wasn't around, whether it be an NFL person or an entertainer or whatever it is, and then you say, I think that would work.
So first of all, it's funny the terminology you use, because I don't even like the word impersonate. I like do impression of, because impersonate to me means what we were just, it's just a snooty, stupid thing. But when somebody says impersonation, I'm thinking of the guy in Vegas who does the Cher impression, or the Michael Jackson impersonator, and that's just somebody trying to get you to believe they're that person.
Gotcha.
But how do I choose the people? To me, if it's a sports person, do they do something other than just sports? When Barkley's doing, "Are you my five?" It's the $5 boxer rocks. That I saw Barkley doing karaoke in Tahoe years ago, and nothing beats watching him going, "Because it's thriller night, those zombies gonna eat you." True things are always, real things are always better. But if are they a personality outside of sports? That's and I was just only really worried about sports ones for a while. But are enough people going to know who it is? That's always something now.
That's why I've always been so surprised with my Saban, and I want you to finish, but it's like that seems so niche to me, but it you know what I mean. But so many people seem to know, so it's like sometimes you just don't know what's going to work and what's not.
It is and it isn't. I mean, it's so big, it's niche, but it's not in this. College football is number 2, I think, in audience, and it's really huge in the South, obviously, and anywhere where you have a good football program, or program, as you might say, as Nick Saban.
But what were you with well, enough people know him, and then.
Well, I'll tell you what's I'll get there in a second. But what's even funny is I've listened to Saban, and I don't know if he quit saying it or if he never really said it and you just made it. He doesn't really say program. That's one of those funny things. He doesn't do it now, which is something that everybody in their head, that's a Joey Molinaro creation. And that's one of those things, even if he said it a couple times, but he'll say program. He'll even draw it out sometimes, but I can't unhear program. So to me,
that's funny. I don't, maybe just like a couple of the first ones when I was first nailing, as one of the things that I just picked up on.
And it fits.
Spoke. I don't know.
and if somebody else did program, I'd be like, you're just doing Joey Bertolami. That's my wife's cousin. You're just doing Joey Molinaro doing it. You're not doing, that's like doing George H.W. Bush and going, not gonna do. No, that's Dana Carvey doing it. He never said that.
Were you with Kuiper, Todd? That's why I was like, I never wanted to, because that's you.
Yeah, and that even came. Originally, it was going to be McShay, and then we started going Todd. And I was talking to my producer at the time, Luis Aldea, and he's like, I think he says the name all the time. He says his name, And I was like, McShay. And then we kind of both at the same time realized it was Todd, and the hard D was funnier. And then it just started out as Todd, because he's constantly interrupting. No, we did a situation where they did Todd, and they're with Todd McShay talking about what kind of coffee you're going to drink. It's hard, core roasted, tremendous job. Look at the situation. So
his face is my favorite. His on camera,
yeah, he's always disagreeing. It was almost when I first started there, it was like just he starts disagreeing. We did a sketch where McShay like says the stats. He's 6'5", 240, and I'm doing this as Kuiper. He's like, what? He's like, Mel, how can you disagree? I'm giving stats. You're looking at this totally incorrectly. It's looking at the situation. Did I ever tell you about the time Kuiper called me? So after I did the first Mel Kiper Jr. impression it was on during the draft, he calls me. He's like, Frank, people thought I didn't like it. I loved the entire Kiper family sitting around watching you do an impression of me. By the way, I'm on my way to Vegas. You ever been to Las Vegas? Never been to Las Vegas. You go to any shows? You ever see a blue man group? Are they actually blue people? Talking about tremendous situation, high risk, low reward. Got the toilet paper rolls going. I heard about that. They're working on the ductwork, spinning around, making the sound kind of like a vacuum hose without the vacuum cleaner. I'm just not really sure if that's what it's all about, Frank. They gamble in Vegas. They're still gambling there. I don't even know.
Are you at this point? Are you just like holding the phone away and just letting him go, or what's going on?
Yeah. Just let it. It's because he's. Have you met him yet?
No.
So he's not that. He's not that guy at all. He's like reverse Superman Clark Kent. When he takes the glasses off, he's the sweetest, nicest guy. He's like, oh, tremendous show, Frank. He's got the most beautiful wife, I'm talking like a track, beautiful wife, beautiful daughter. There and I go, Mel, this isn't, I never get who's that guy on TV, and his wife goes, I know. like he just changes when he's on TV. And I don't think I think it's just, he's just so serious about his work.
Sure.
And he takes it, he takes it so seriously that he takes offense when you don't think the same things he does in some ways, and he gets combative. But it works. I mean, it's worked for him. But I don't think he's doing it on purpose and putting on a show. I think that's just who he becomes when he's on there. But there isn't a sweeter, nicer person than Mel Kiper Jr., and you would never guess that from watching him on television.
That's what I've heard. I'd love to chat with him. I'd just be laughing the whole time. Rich Eisen, mutual, I would say friend, media friend of mine, friend of yours. We've been on his show together last year. Do you have an impression of Rich Eisen? Have you tried one?
I've messed around with it.
It's tough.
Because he's there's stuff to do with him because he's a little sing-songy. He's like, hi, I'm Rich Eisen. He's got that, I'm Rich Eisen, and he's got that up and down. But then, but he's kind of like a quintessential host. And he changes a lot. So he's not, anytime I've ever done a show, he's just, oh, thanks for doing this, man. Thanks for doing this, Frank. Like 100,000 times. You're like, what are you planning? What are you going to do?
He's an overthinker.
Yeah, he's an overthinker. 100%. But he's super, he's super nice, but, he changes. I shouldn't say changes, but he's malleable with the situation. He's not like a Chris Berman who's always doing the same thing. It's say what you will, but nobody circles the wagons like the wagon circler.
There's a few of those things, like you said, his cadence and his like rhythm, and he gets into, I like you said, sing song. He gets into like game show host or like
a little bit, yeah.
Knows that he's the host, so he kind of plays it up. You know what I mean? I'm Rich. That's Mike Irvin, and I'm Rich Eisen. It's very much like that. I mean, that's not how he sounds, but his cadence is very
and he's got it's the beats in each one. Like he'll just put phrases together. So each phrase as he walks down, that's actually a little too slow, but it's that I don't have it to muscle memory. So I
I was just thinking about like on game day, when their pregame show, when like they're cutting away and it's in Pittsburgh, and it's
as they're walking behind the
right,
scenes.
Yeah. There's Minka Fitzpatrick and his Steelers looking. Like he yeah, that's exactly.
You can look for him. He in those, he's looking for what to say because there really isn't anything to say. So it's a lot of filler there. And the great thing about Rich is he 100% knows it's filler. He's not like a host who's cheesy, trying to put some cheesy filler in there.
Right.
He's not like a cheese combo chachi. He knows he's vamping. He knows he's just filling some time.
Right.
Which is the stuff that's Rich is in on the joke that he's a host. He gets that sounds like a negative, but yeah, he doesn't take himself way too seriously. That's the key. Some people, especially in sports, take themselves hugely seriously, and you're going, oh, come on, relax.
Yeah, no, exactly. Take a step back. What's your relationship like with Adam Sandler? Do you have one? Have you guys met?
I only met Adam Sandler. Nick Swartzen took me up to meet him. It was at the Super Bowl in Arizona years ago, and I don't like to bother people, but Swartzen brought me over there, and I talked to Sandler for a second. He said, "Hey, how you doing, man? That's pretty good. I saw you on the Tonight Show the other day. Nice job, right?" And I was like, "Oh, thanks, man." I was like, I was on cloud nine. I'm like, Adam Sandler telling me I'm funny, and that's a cool thing. And then I'll walk over, and there's Jennifer Aniston. She goes, I heard Adam talking with you about are you in entertainment? It's like, yeah, I'm a comedian. Never heard of you. She didn't do it like a mean way. I was like, oh God. Yeah, I just went from Adam Sandler thinking I'm great to
see that I feel really bad for you there, Frank. One, I don't feel bad for you because Sandler's like my idol, so that's fucking amazing that you got to meet him and he said that about you. But two, that happens to me in Loyola, Indianapolis, where I'll be like at a restaurant or at a bar on a weekend, and some guys will come up, hey man, like good to see you, I love the Saban, whatever, cool. And then like the girls they're with, they've had a few drinks and they'll be like, they know who you are. I don't know who you are. Who are you? But they know, but I don't know who you are. And I'm like, all right, I'm Joey. Just good to see you. But that's like Jennifer Aniston. That's like 10,000 times on steroids. What happened to you? So
I actually talk about that in my act sometimes because I'll be like, all the guys are like, this is awesome, and all of them like, who is he again? I don't kind of. My wife didn't even know. My wife, when I met my wife was at the Cleveland Improv. She's in the front row, not laughing at anything I did, and she didn't know any of the impressions. She felt bad for me. I'm like, oh, I'm making good money, so don't feel too bad.
Then you put the moves on. You sweet talked her. You Caliendo or sweet talked her.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Can we do a little something? I thought about it before you got on, and I thought I don't know how much you do Al Michaels anymore. Do you do Al Michaels anymore?
Unbelievable. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. That's basically all I can do, though.
Okay. Well, I was thinking it could be a little fun. Could be good for social and everything. Maybe you do a little Michaels. I could slide in as Collinsworth. We could have a little back and forth bullshit.
Here we are on a Cup of Joey. Unbelievable. What's going on right here? Take a look as I welcome in my partner, Chris Collinsworth.
Boy, the conversation we've all been waiting for, right? Frank Caliendo and Joey Molinaro, two guys who a lot of dudes know and none of the girls care. They do some wacky voices. They do, Al, but I tell you, it is a conversation I have been waiting for. There is no doubt about it.
And it really is. We move forward to understanding what it is we're about to find out. That was a sentence that just fell apart on itself, and slowly but surely, I'm turning into Kermit the Frog.
That was perfect. That was perfect. Thank you for cooperating
listen,
and
no,
being a
just
good
listen,
sport, my friend.
just listen. I was just talking to, trying to figure out this kind of thing. Is this the Belichick mumble? Just wondering if Nick Saban was on his way.
Well, Frank, I've been wanting to tell you that we need to get together.
Nick. I'm not Frank right now. I'm Bill.
Coach Belichick, I know we did that HBO thing together. You came down. I didn't have time because I was running my football program. I've been saying,
Nick, Bill.
You want me to call you Bill or you call it Coach Belichick? I think that Coach Belichick's more respectful. Somebody don't call me Coach Saban. Like the media people down here, they call me Nick or they call me Saban. I had their asses thrown out. All right. So I call you Coach Belichick because that's what I like to be called down here. All right.
Okay.
No, but seriously, that thing that they did, that coach's special, I know it was like a year ago, like 6 months ago. But there's still something there, Frank. I think we could do a little Belichick Saban. I think it would rock people's worlds.
I feel like we just kind of did it,
You bring up a good point. This is very good.
Listen, Joey, you have the opportunities. And when you have an opportunity, you just have to kind of go with it. And if you don't take advantage of it, there's nothing I can really tell you what to do about that. I'm going to bring in my son who talks exactly like me, but has a mullet just like you.
We do, man. Yeah, you're making me feel. You started with the hair and you're finishing with the hair. You're making me feel bad. You make me feel like my mom. Every time I'm over, she does the classic.
I just find it interesting. It was such a huge transformation. But then again, I'm in the middle. I'm at this point where I wear like Robert Downey Jr. glasses everywhere and full-on velour sweatsuits. It's getting too hot in Arizona, but I'm like, I'm going to embrace my inner Italian, right? And we're just going to, as you're walking around, they're called sweatshitos. You ever heard of it? Yeah, you're a Molinero. You know what's going on, So I put on my sweatsuit, my glasses, and I go over to McDonald's and just enjoy a Big Mac, maybe get a Happy Meal for the kids. They're about growing it a little bit, but I don't give a shit. You know what I'm talking about?
Now you're getting
instead of that, let's go get some raviolis down at the Vincentorios. You ever been down there? They do a tremendous job. It's really, really great. They will prepare the food right in front of you, and it's not even something. It's garlic bread. You wouldn't think you could prepare garlic bread in front of somebody, but they do it right there. Put the garlic on. It's amazing. It's incredible what they do.
Your Italian guy is like a mix of De Niro and Gruden.
Well, it all depends. See, but that's always the problem. Whenever you do an original character, people are like, "Oh, that sounds like you're doing Richard Dreyfuss."
It was great.
No, I did a teacher character at Mad TV years and years ago, like 75 years ago. But it was, I talked like this, and they're like, "That's Richard Dreyfuss." I was like, "No, this is Richard Dreyfuss." But people will always hear that. They'll hear those impressions. Because when we do impressions, I always say, we're magicians, not sorcerers. You don't conjure up an impression. You work at it. It's like a card trick. There's no magic. You're just learning how to do the sleight of hand and holding the card so nobody can see it. Well, that's what you do with your voice. It's a vocal illusion. So when you do that, you fake things. So there's ways to fake things and cheat them that you can kind of sound like the person just enough, as opposed to sounding exactly like them. I mean, how many bad Kermit the Frogs have you heard? I've heard so many Kermit the Frog here, Kermit the Frog here, Kermit the Frog here. But the Jim Henson, you have to sound like what actually Jim Henson actually sounds like. And Kermit the Frog here. It's there's an extra little piece in there. But then again, there's multiple Kermits now. People don't even know the original Kermit anymore. Younger people, so it doesn't even matter, I guess, because the actual Kermit is not even who I see as being Kermit anymore. I mean, that's another thing, and I know you got to go here, but that's another thing about impressions versus sound-alikes. When you do a cartoon character or a Muppet or something like that, or a puppet, you have to do it exactly. Because that's the character that the person made up and is using that character voice. When you do an actor's voice, you can have a range of the way the person sounds. So,
But also
because
the
they played a role.
triangle, when you're on 60 Minutes or whatever, the triangle of the face that you change
the real sports thing. I call it the pizza slice. What you do with your face to create, George W. to Donald Trump. And I figured
Jennifer Aniston, for God's sake. I mean, the little the Aniston. Yeah.
I crushed that one too. People won't. If you did that on The Voice, people would, that's Jennifer Aniston. He's
Yeah.
Robin Williams used to be the one that I would freak people out with because that's an amazing thing, right? How do you do it? I don't even know. That's the groom. There's so many of them that they lend themselves to that. And then when you can sell it with the face too, and then the mannerisms, all that stuff helps to make a full impression. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Frank, man, I can't thank you enough. I know I've been bugging you about getting on and talking, and it's really still. I mean, I know we talk, fairly regularly, but it's still just a shock and a true joy and honor every time I get to talk to you, man. So I appreciate you hanging out for a little bit.
The only thing I can say, Joey, is you're welcome.
That's all you need. That's all it is. Seriously. Thanks, man.
People will be like, is he really that much of a jerk? Yeah, I am.
Yeah. I'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right.